Nobel Peace Prize announcement will be done at absolutely any time now. We're on standby for the Nobel Peace Prize announcement in Norway. Now, remember, the big question at the moment is, will Trump get the Nobel Prize? Will he become the peace president? Remember, 338 candidates are in contention for the Peace Prize, from the late Pope Francis to Elon Musk. And Donald Trump has thrown his hat in the ring and has been lobbying aggressively. So will Trump get the Peace Prize? That's the big question at this moment, as we wait for the Nobel Committee to announce the winner of this year's Nobel Peace Prize. The announcement is expected very, very shortly, viewers, and on your screen right now is the hall where the Nobel Peace Prize announcement is going to be made. As you can see from the visuals, the podium is ready for the announcement to be made. At any minute now, the Peace Prize announcement will be made. With 338 candidates in the fray, from the late Pope to Elon Musk, the question really is who will get it. And let's listen into what is being said there.
The Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 goes to a brave and committed champion of peace, to a woman who keeps the flame of democracy burning amidst a growing darkness. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 to Maria Corina Machado. She is receiving the Nobel Peace Prize for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela, and for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. As the leader of the democratic forces in Venezuela, Maria Corina Machado is one of the most extraordinary examples of civilian courage in Latin America in recent times. Ms. Machado has been a key unifying figure in a political opposition that was once deeply divided, an opposition that found common ground in the demand for free election and representative government. This is precisely what lies at the heart of democracy: our shared willingness to defend the principles of popular rule, even though we disagree. At a time when democracy is under threat, it is more important than ever to defend this common ground. Venezuela has evolved from a relatively democratic and prosperous country to a brutal and authoritarian state that is now suffering a humanitarian and economic crisis. Most Venezuelans live in deep poverty, even as the few at the top enrich themselves. The violent machinery of
and
the
clearly a big setback for Donald Trump, but a very, very clear message going from the Nobel Committee. A woman leader from South America, a Venezuelan opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, who has been talking about democracy, about people's rights, gets the Nobel Peace Prize. Maria Corina Machado awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. This is a big setback for US President Donald Trump, who has been touting his work in the international arena as his reason to get the Nobel Peace Prize. But a very clear message being sent by the Nobel Committee as it chooses a woman leader, a Venezuelan woman leader who's been talking about transitioning from autocracy, from a brutal regime to democracy. And the statement being made by the in the announcement that at a time when democracy is under threat, it is more important than ever to defend this ground. Geeta Mohan joins me on this story. Geeta, a very clear message being sent by the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. In fact, America will not be very unhappy with the decision because they've been fighting the Maduro administration for a very long time. And this is the most prominent opposition leader in Venezuela who's been fighting against the administration and fighting for democracy in the country for a very long time. So will not be unhappy. Also, for Donald Trump to have gotten the Nobel Peace Prize so close to a deal that just has been agreed upon by all parties and is not absolutely in place would have been rather preemptive. We know of leaders who have received Nobel Peace Prizes in the past preemptively as well. And nothing really was delivered. And there are many such cases, including in '94 when after the Oslo Accord, Rabin, Yasser Arafat, and Shimon Peres also won the Nobel Peace Prize. And what happened to Oslo? Look at where Israel and Palestine question is today. In all probability, they'd like to see more in terms of delivery and a lasting peace for President Donald Trump to really receive the award. So no award for Donald Trump this year. There are many questions that were raised and have been raised as to what will happen and what will Donald Trump do to Norway or with Norway should he not win the award. There could be some ramifications and repercussions, but this has been a very diplomatic decision in many ways. There were many other contenders as well, but to choose a Venezuelan opposition leader will stave off the wrath in all probability of Washington DC, given that they will consider this a very deserving prize and a very deserving award to somebody who has been fighting the bête noire in Venezuela for a very long time. So important decision, a very important announcement that has been made. Donald Trump has missed the bid yet again. This is not the first time that he was nominated. But there are a few conflicts where he's actively participating in and playing a role. The Israel-Hamas ceasefire is one of them. Whether it will bring lasting peace to the people of Palestine is the question. And that's certainly something that President Trump, should he want to be a peacemaker, will have to deliver upon. The other very important conflict is Russia-Ukraine conflict. Should there be forward movement? Because conversations with Steve Witkoff are underway on that front as well. Should there be forward movement on that front? Then next year, certainly, he will be a serious contender. But this year, it was too early and things are still not fallen in place. There's just an agreement and all parties have agreed to accept it. We'll have to wait and see if there are going to be violations and who's going to violate.
Geeta, can you tell us a little more about the lady who has actually won the Nobel Peace Prize? Maria Corina Machado has been leading the fight against the brutal regime in Venezuela for the last several years. She's currently in hiding, and this is something that has been, as you just mentioned, that even the US has been trying to back her as far as their relationship with the Venezuelan government is concerned. But the Nobel Committee very clearly saying that as in today's situation, as it is more important than ever to defend this ground because democracy is under threat. Geeta.
Well, that's right. It has been a long struggle for her. It's not the first time she's been awarded. She's a renowned name in that part of the world. Certainly, a lot more people will know her now. The European Parliament had awarded her, the European Union, so to say, had awarded her their top human rights prize as well. Not so long ago, and that's the Sakharov Prize for Freedom Thought, and she continues to be a leading light when it comes to democracy, democratic values. She fought, and her contention as the opposition candidate was cancelled by the then administration, by the then government, and the National Electoral Council back then and even now headed by Maduro won the re-election, won the elections with a 51% vote. So she has been a very important voice and face in Venezuela, but more so in Venezuela, the picture is very different. A lot of people follow, and Maduro does have a following. The Venezuela has staved off the pressures of the West, particularly the United States of America. But then in doing so, they've also been rather autocratic. And this voice over here of Machado really comes out as somebody who wants to protect freedom of thought and democracy in the country. While a lot in the West, a lot of people and a lot of governments in the West would come out in support of her for political and diplomatic reasons. The reason why she's winning the award is completely different. Many in Venezuela will say that, well, a pro-West, if you're speaking against Maduro or such governments, would be considered pro-West. So a pro-West voice has got the award, but that's not her achievement. It's beyond that. She has been working and fighting for democracy and democratic values, freedom of thought and speech. The ones who are held prisoners in Venezuela, for them. So a very strong voice, but again, no reasons for Washington, D.C., for White House to complain, because this is an award, given the current scenario and the current situation. We're looking at a very tense situation between Venezuela and America. And
actually, Geeta, on that note, stay
on.
on with me. Let's also listen into what Donald Trump had said when he was talking about possibly getting the Nobel Prize. Let's listen in.
I know this, that nobody in history has solved 8 wars in a period of 9 months. And I've stopped 8 wars. So that's never happened before. But they'll have to do what they do. Whatever they do is fine. I know this. I didn't do it for that. I did it because I saved a lot of lives. And that's the thing that bothers me so much about the Russia-Ukraine. 7,000 people are dying a week. Young soldiers. They're almost all soldiers of Ukraine and Russia. So in theory, it doesn't affect us, no, but it's a terrible thing. And we'll get that solved too. But nobody has ever done 8 wars. Nobody's done 8 wars in 30 years, let alone 9 months.
Geeta, given what Donald Trump has been saying and what we were just discussing about Maria Machado's contribution, how are you seeing the response from the international community to this Nobel Peace Prize? Because Donald Trump has been talking about having resolved wars, having brought peace to multiple or long conflicts.
Well, the Nobel Prize Committee is, particularly Norway, have dodged a bullet over here. Because they do know that there will be, the whole of West is certainly going to welcome the decision. And America is also certainly going to welcome this decision of awarding Machado the Nobel Peace Prize. So instead of looking at who got it and where and what the reactions are going to be, which are going to be absolutely welcoming of the decision, but also in terms of how White House would have reacted should it have been anyone else. Because look at the claim that has been made. Look at what President Donald Trump has been saying. We are focused on only Israel, Hamas, and I'm saying that, okay, it just happened and let's wait and see. But he's already claimed having solved 8 wars or completely entrenched in at least 1 or 2 of them right now. And none of those countries have actually come out and said in so many words that, yes, all those wars or conflicts or problems have been solved, particularly by President Donald Trump. He did play a very key role in some of them, including the ones recently where he invited the leaders of Armenia, Azerbaijan, and showed that, you know, he wants to be a player in the region and also wants to ensure that there's peace and stability. Having said that, over here, it is not about the conflicts or wars that had already stalled for a bit. It is about lasting peace in the 2 biggest conflicts that we've been seeing. That's Israel, Hamas, and the the question of Palestine and the Russia-Ukraine war. So his team, and he seems to be committed to looking at bringing about peace. Will he be able to or not is the question. But I really think that Norway and the Nobel Peace Prize Committee did well, dodged a bullet here by choosing a Venezuelan leader, opposition leader, as the top choice for the award, because if it were any other country, it would have been very difficult. The fact that it's a Venezuelan who's been fighting Maduro and who very actively America's fighting in the waters between Venezuela and America, even as we speak, is White House. So I think there will be a lot of welcoming of the decision and congratulatory notes that will go the winner and the committee's way.
Geeta, let's also talk about Maria Machado's own contributions. She's a woman leader who's been talking about fighting autocracy for the last almost more than a decade. She's been talking about education, she's talking about reform, she's talking about anti-corruption. But at the same time, she's also talking about privatization of companies, privatization of state-run entities, and that is something that the current regime in Venezuela and even people in Venezuela have criticized her about. When it comes to economics, politics, democracy, diplomacy, how are you seeing the contributions made by Maria Machado, the person, the lady who has now been given the Nobel Peace Prize?
Well, she comes from a certain political line of thinking. I'd say that her contribution has more to do with the fact that she was fighting for freedom of thought, democracy, fighting against illegal imprisonment, so on and so forth. But her political line of thinking is and is far removed from what Venezuela has been in terms of having a more socialistic leaning in their form of government. What she's looking for is privatize all these companies, all these important public sector units that should have been privatized long ago, so that it's in the hands of the people and not the governments, and that the monopolizing of these very important resources really stop. Particularly, Venezuela thrives on one aspect, and that's oil, and energy. Not having access to and not being able to capitalize on, optimally utilize and exploit the full potential of a country's resources, where Venezuela could have been a thriving economy, is something that she's been advocating and talking about. Venezuela comes from a very different school of thought, where they say that everything does not require privatization and capitalization, and has been fighting capitalism for a very long time. So there are two different schools of thought in Venezuela. Not everybody sides with the Western philosophy and thought, and not everyone in Venezuela actually agrees with the current administration. The problem lies in not what kind of political line of thinking the two sides have. It has to do with the current administration in its line of thinking goes on to become authoritarian, curtails freedom, curtails democratic values and rights. That becomes a problem, and she certainly was a face for that as well. And that is the reason why I suppose the Nobel Prize Committee looked at her as the top choice for this award. Remember, she was hiding in the Dutch embassy. Now, all embassies are land of that country, and the hosting country cannot violate that space, cannot go in, march in or force themselves in. So as was the case that we'd seen long ago with Wikipedia founder as well, when he was in London, but was in the Ecuadorian embassy. Here she was in the Dutch embassy for a month and then fled to Spain. So we are yet to hear from her. She will be heading to Norway soon, when the prize ceremony will take place. And for now, it's a big win. It's a good win, and it's a diplomatic win as well, where they've not the choice was not just about who they should be giving it, and whether if the person is deserving or not. Yes, most of them that they consider. I mean, there's Imran Khan as well. There's Donald Trump, but most of them that they consider deserving. She made the top cut, I suppose, because she's the opposition leader of Venezuela as well. Not taking away from contribution, not taking away from what she's done, but certainly dodging a bullet here from White House.
All right, Geeta, stay on with me. Let's take a look at who is Maria Corina Machado. Maria Corina Machado Pesricha is the current Venezuelan opposition leader. She served as an elected member of the National Assembly of Venezuela from 2011 to 2014. And as the leader of Venezuela's pro-democracy movement, she has played a very crucial role in uniting a once divided opposition under the shared goal of free and fair elections. The Nobel Committee highlighted her belief in the choice of ballots over bullets and her lifelong advocacy for judicial independence, human rights and representative governance in her country. And despite being barred from contesting in the 2024 presidential elections, Machado had continued her campaign for democracy by backing the opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia. Under her leadership, hundreds and thousands of volunteers acted as election observers, documenting the true results before the Venezuelan regime could manipulate or destroy the ballots. That has been her contribution, and that is what has won her the Nobel Peace Prize. Geeta Mohan, of course, is continuing with me. Geeta, the kind of contribution that Maria Machado has made to democracy, to the discourse on democracy, talking about independent ballots, talking about free and fair elections, that is sending a very clear message to the entire world right now, even to the US really, when it comes to free and fair elections, to the right to dissent, to the right of opposition to be able to speak, isn't it, Geeta?
Well, absolutely. She's been a very strong voice. She has been one who's been supported a lot by the West in terms of ensuring that she's able to voice the concerns that she's had in her own country. But at the end of the day, when you look at a leader such as Maria Corina, you know that living and surviving in that country, surviving would have been very, very difficult. And so she did have to go in hiding. And then she did have to flee the country. The question is, she's won the Nobel Peace Prize. What does it get her in terms of a change in Venezuela, a democratic change in Venezuela, ensuring that elections are free and fair, that democratic voices are heard or allowed to be heard, that there's no false imprisonment of people, so on and so forth. I'll still again repeat that, the political line of thinking and how a government or how a country works is their own. But in doing so, if they become autocratic, that becomes a problem. And Maria Corina Machado has been fighting that autocracy, that autocratic system that didn't allow democracy to thrive, that didn't allow other leaders to thrive, other lines of thinking to thrive. If most of the people over there want change, the country should be allowed then to have that change. And that certainly is the fight that Maria Corina Machado has led. A deserving award, but and we'll see a lot of world reactions coming on the award itself. But choosing a Venezuelan leader at this point in time, I repeat myself, is a very interesting one.
Let's also talk about how Trump has been snubbed by the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. It seems that he had been talking about getting the award. I'm also being joined by Gaurav Sawant. Sorry, Geeta Mohan, stay on with me. Gaurav Sawant joins me on this story. Gaurav, clear snub to Donald Trump. He had been talking about how he has ended wars and ended 8 long-standing conflicts, that he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, but the prize going to a leader who has been talking about democracy, about free and fair elections, about the opposition being allowed to speak. Gaurav.
It indeed would be extremely disappointing for the American President Donald Trump. He had emphatically campaigned and himself along, of course, with the Pakistani leadership. But imagine when you're recommended by a military dictator who's a radical Islamist, how seriously would that case be taken anyways? But be that as it may, American President Donald Trump claimed he'd stopped multiple fights. Sadly, those fights are still on, especially between Russia and Ukraine, at a time when he said, had I been in the White House, that war wouldn't have happened, to the point of saying that the moment I come into White House, the war would stop, to his efforts to stop the war, his meeting with the Russian president in Alaska, followed by America talking about giving Patriot missiles to Ukraine. So how would you give a Nobel Peace Prize to someone who's giving missiles to one country against another country, a person who's participated in the bombing of Iran, in Israel's war on radical Islamist terror, whether it comes to Hamas or Hezbollah, or bombing Iran independently and with Americans. So all of these, there were many, many combinations. And of course, the false claim. He repeatedly made false claims about intervening and getting a ceasefire brokered between India and Pakistan, which is so not true. So, you know, the Nobel Committee would have also gone into all these aspects. However, if there is peace between Israel and Hamas, efforts have been made. There are serious efforts that have been made. If this peace holds, if by Monday hostages are returned alive, and if subsequently 20 of those 48 are returned alive, if some steps are taken, perhaps for future, he may have a candidature. Clearly not this time.